Capitol Hill. You know, the lawmakers that were negotiating police reform this week, they actually reached a deal on framework to overhaul the police system in the United States. And even though they said that they're planning to continue these discussions on police reform, that seemed to be another sign of bipartisanship on Capitol Hill. Christine.
All right, Daniela, thank you so much for that. You know, Wall Street cheered after President Biden's announcement. The Dow closed up 322 points, the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ record highs for both of those. Stocks were already trading higher before Biden's comments, even after weekly jobless claims showed another 411,000 people filed for first-time jobless benefits, down a little bit from the previous week's unexpected surge. Help wanted signs are popping up across the country as employers struggle to find workers. President Biden offered businesses a solution.
Pay them more. This is an employees bargaining chip now. What's happening? They're going to have to compete and start paying hard-working people a decent wage.
Yeah, workers do have the leverage now. More people are quitting their jobs than at any time in the past 20 years. Workers appear confident they can find new, higher-paying jobs. We will have more on search and rescue efforts in Florida all morning. Also, Afghanistan disintegrating fast as American troops pull out. What to expect when leaders from Afghanistan visit the White House today.
We've lost our way, and unless this party, I believe, gets themselves put back together and becomes what we were in the Reagan years, which is the party of inclusion, the party of Abraham Lincoln and so forth, we're not going to have much of a party. It's right now a small, very vocal few are running the Republican Party. And the rest of us who consider ourselves Republicans are kind of left out in the cold. The proof is in what happens, I believe, next time at the ballot box for sure. And what happens to see if there's any effort on the part of any of these lead Republicans to do what's right for the country instead of what's right for themselves. We need to work across the aisle. We've got to be bipartisan. We have to. There's some very serious issues facing this country, and yet there doesn't seem to be any movement on our side.
understand Italy, you need to look at the food. The famous ancients of Rome once ruled the world. But I'm here to discover how it's the food of ordinary Romans that has conquered our hearts.
The working class people create the roots of Italian food.
This is simple food, elevated over centuries.
Look at how beautiful that is. That's the best one I've had.
Stanley Tucci, Searching for Italy, Sunday on CNN.
We've already begun the process. Those who helped us are not going to be left behind.
That's President Biden pledging to help thousands of Afghan nationals who helped the U.S. during the war and are reportedly now being hunted by the Taliban. Senior administration officials say a plan to relocate the Afghans to a third country is still being finalized, and the evacuation process is not imminent. That's raising concern for the Afghans' safety as U.S. troops withdraw from the country. That issue will be top of mind when leaders from Afghanistan meet with President Biden at the White House today. CNN's Nick Robertson joins us live. You know, Nick, you report that Afghanistan is disintegrating and fast. What do Afghan leaders want from the Biden administration today?
Yeah, I think they're going to want to see those guarantees met that President Biden's talking about of all Afghans that have served and helped U.S. forces, and that could be 70 to 80,000 people if you include their families, get this promise that they will be relocated, that there is a third country for them to go to. There's less than 80 days now for this whole huge number of visas, special immigrant visas, to be processed. I think the other thing they're going to be looking to President Biden for is an ongoing commitment, financial commitment to the country. What he's going to look to them for is this is Ashraf Ghani, the president, and Dr. Abdullah, the sort of one of the other really big leaders in the country, the former chief executive. And we often think about NATO and US forces as being the glue, the military glue that's held Afghanistan together, and it is. But there's been a political glue that's been holding these sort of disparate political elements together in the country. And the president and the Afghan president and then the former chief executive officer of the country kind of exemplified that. They've been at loggerheads politically. It took the United States really to get them to agree to share power. So I think we're going to hear Biden talk to them about unity. And of course, this is what the Taliban's trying to undermine. The Taliban, as it tries to take different areas in the country where it's succeeding in some places, that undermines confidence in the central government, weakens the resolve to stay together and be unified. And with the United States and others not being there to be that diplomatic political glue, that's going to be hard. You know, I think the other thing that the president will say to them is, I'm not changing the drawdown date. That's set, it's happening. You need to negotiate with the Taliban. And it's going to hear back from them. The Taliban are not doing it in good faith. I don't think it's a win-win situation for any of these leaders in the White House today.
In the meantime, we've heard from so many American veterans who are terrified about their former colleagues and what's going to happen to them and their families. This third country possibility, why not just approve visas for these people to come to the United States?
You know, obviously there's real issues in the embassy in Kabul at the moment. There's a big COVID outbreak in the country. It's difficult for the embassy to sort of see and process that many people. They live in scattered areas across the country. The travel's not easy. Logistics are just not there and in place. But it's a very valid question. If you're going to get them out now before the noose draws in around them. A former CNN, former person of Afghan who worked for CNN was in touch with me just yesterday. He wants to get out of the country as well. You know, there are a lot of people, and they really, really, genuinely fear the Taliban because of their association with either U.S. government or Western organizations.
All right. Thanks so much for that, Nick Robertson. Nice to see you this morning. All right, even after a successful vaccination campaign, masks are making an unwelcome return in Israel thanks to the Delta COVID variant. And the latest from Florida, where families are waiting for any word about their loved ones. 99 people still missing after that condo collapse.
Climate change affects people all over the world. But what if all food packaging came from nature and didn't impact the climate? At Tetra Pak, we're on a journey towards delivering the world's most sustainable food package. Fully renewable, fully recyclable, carbon neutral. Go nature. Go cartoon. Learn more at gonature.tetrapak.com.
Roughly 65% of children in primary schools will grow up to work in jobs that don't exist in our world today. So how do we prepare for that change?
It's been said that the future is already here, it's just not evenly distributed.
We're not looking to build a better car. What we're really looking to do is to build a better driver.
Semiconductors touches everything we do as a society, as all of humankind.
Innovation really is going to drive and be at the heart for transformation.
Our vision from the beginning was to use technology for a larger purpose.
Airports can be transient spaces, so we wanted to create a sense of home.
We needed an airport that met all the expectations of our passengers because we have created a culture where the customer is first.
HIA has been designed to seamlessly transport passengers from landside to airside.
We try to fulfill all the requirements and every step they take.
We want it to be a destination for transfer, but also a place for art lovers to come.
Whenever you see a yellow bear, you immediately remember HIA.
The Al Safwa First Class Lounge is intentionally decadent.
I don't think there is any airport able to provide this kind of luxury.
We're giving the first class experience to everybody steps in our airport.
This is the next great chapter in aviation. Hamad International Airport.
I'm excited to let you know that my digital show Full Circle is back. You can watch it every Monday, Tuesday, and Friday, 6 p.m. live Eastern Time or anytime on demand. And to make sure you never miss a show, you can get alerts on every episode via the CNN app. I'll see you then.
When you travel the world, make sure the world travels with you. Check in, log on, and get connected with all of the latest developments at your fingertips. CNN Partner Hotels, connected to your world.
To understand Italy, you need to look at the food. I'm here to discover how it's the food of ordinary Romans that has conquered our hearts.
That is delicious.
Stanley Tucci searching for Italy, Sunday on CNN.
I'm Diego McKenzie in Goma, Eastern DRC, and this is CNN.
Welcome back. From free Panera bagels to Chipotle burritos, the White House rolling out new incentives for young people to vaccinate. Teens and 20-somethings have especially low COVID vaccination rates, so the administration is targeting them as a top priority demographic. The White House has acknowledged the U.S. will fall short of President Biden's goal to give 70% of Americans at least one dose by the 4th of July.
It's more easily transmittable, this Delta variant, potentially deadlier, and especially dangerous for young people. He says it's the greatest threat to our fight to beat COVID-19. But the good news is we have a solution. The science is clear. The best way to protect yourself against the virus and its variants is to be fully vaccinated. It works. It's free. It's safe. It's easy. It's convenient.
437,000 COVID cases in Los Angeles since December. Health officials say more than 99.5% of those people were unvaccinated. Folks, from here on out, virtually every COVID death can be considered preventable because these vaccines work. A CDC advisory panel wants more research now on whether COVID and flu vaccines can be administered together especially to adolescents. This year's flu season may be the first time children have a chance to receive COVID vaccine, while adolescents and adults may also need a COVID booster shot. An ominous development in Israel with that Delta variant. Even though vaccines are working, cases are growing again, and moments ago, the indoor mask mandate returned. Elliot Gotkin is live for us this morning in Tel Aviv. And and Israel was sort of a model early on a success story for vaccination. What's happening here?
Christine, I think it is still a model in terms of its vaccination campaign. What's happened here is that there have been a number of outbreaks of the Delta variant in cities such as Binyamina in the north, Modi'in in the center of Israel, and Kfar Saba to the east of Tel Aviv. And what they're doing now, they've seen over the last 4 days, there have been more than 100 cases each day. There were 227 cases on Thursday. Now, in the context of those figures you were giving in parts of the United States, these are obviously still very small, but what the government wants to do, in the words of Prime Minister Naftali Bennett, is throw a bucket of water over these fires to put them out before they turn into something much bigger. So as you say, as of 20 minutes ago, Israelis who just 10 days ago were allowed to stop wearing masks at indoor venues or on public transportation are now back to having to wear masks at indoor venues and on public transportation as well, and at Ben Gurion International Airport. They're expanding testing capacity at the airport. Everyone entering the country is going to have a PCR test, and they are delaying the opening to tourists from July the 1st, vaccinated tourists, I should say, from July the 1st to August at the earliest. And at the same time, what they're trying to do is to encourage young people, children from age 12 and up, to get vaccinated, because they effectively are the weakest link in a country where most adults have already been vaccinated, and also because the vaccines Israel has are due to expire next month. Christine?
All right, Elliot, thank you so much for that. 25 minutes past the hour, that community in Surfside, Florida, trying to remain hopeful as this painstaking search continues for 99 people missing in that building collapse. CNN live at the scene next.
Our challenge was to determine the best ways for our citizens and visitors to safely enjoy the Tokyo they know and love. Tokyo is a fascinating city that integrates both tradition and innovation. As governor, my first duty is to keep Tokyo safe. We cautiously monitor the global and local situation, consulted experts on safety measures, and began to apply new policies so Tokyo could begin to open. As we prepare for travelers from around the world to visit again, we look forward to welcoming you and hope these new measures make for a safer and happier environment for everyone.
Airports can be transient spaces, so we wanted to create a sense of home.
We needed an airport that met all the expectations of our passengers, because we have created a culture where the customer is first.
HIA has been designed to seamlessly transport passengers from landside to airside.
We tried to fulfill all the requirements and every step they take.
We want it to be a destination for transfer, but also a place for art lovers to come.
Whenever you see a yellow bear, you immediately remember HIA.
The Al Safwa First Class Lounge is intentionally decadent.
I don't think there is any airport able to provide this kind of luxury.
We're giving the first class experience to everybody steps in our airport.
This is the next great chapter in aviation. Hamad International Airport.
We share this place, we all belong. We
to be on the menu. That's the mission of Hologram tonight.
All new African Voices Changemakers. Create opportunities. Impact communities. Transform lives. Sustainable ways to power up the lives of the most vulnerable.
What I love most about what I do is when you feature a hearing aid for the first time, your eyes light up.
African Voices Changemakers, only on CNN.
That is delicious.
Wow. Oh, that's beautiful. It just melts in your mouth.
Oh my God, I love it. That's the best one I've had.
I'm Stanley Tucci. I'm traveling across Italy to discover how the food is as unique as the people and their past.
It's so good. Oh my God, they're so good. Oh my God.
Stanley Tucci, Searching for Italy, Sunday on CNN.
Good Friday morning. This is Early Start. I'm Christine Romans. It's just about 30 minutes past the hour, and the sun is rising now on a dark day in South Florida. Rescue crews racing to find anyone alive under all that rubble of the collapsed condo building in the town of Surfside that's just up from Miami Beach. 99 people still missing, one victim confirmed dead. The husband and son of one woman still unaccounted for. Judy Spiegel spoke with Anderson Cooper.
We have a lot of hope that Judy is still alive and still there. She's an amazing person. She's great grandmother, mother, wife.
My mom is an absolutely amazing person. She's a fighter, and she fights for every single one of us. And we won't stop fighting until we find her.
Family and friends waiting desperately for any information on the fate of their loved ones. The state fire marshal says rescue crews are working carefully in very hazardous conditions.
They can only work in about 15-minute shifts. The level of exhaustion is enormous as soon as they come out. They're carrying, 80 pounds worth of gear. They're carrying, protective equipment. They're carrying concrete saws. Everything has to be manually because of the sheer threat of a building that is unstable looming over them as they are crawling and tumbling under debris to save lives.
Rosa Flores is on the ground for us live in Surfside this morning. And I mean, it looks as though it were almost an earthquake that struck there. What are officials telling you?
Christine, you're absolutely right, and we've covered these at CNN, and this is exactly what it looks like. It's just we normally don't cover building collapses in the United States. This is something that we usually see in other places. But, the team here in Miami and in Miami-Dade County is a team that has the experience. They've traveled around the world helping other countries deal with the disaster that they're dealing with at home right now. Here's what the latest that we've heard from officials. 102 people have been accounted for. What firefighters are doing right now behind me is they are doing everything that they can to locate the 99 individuals who are unaccounted for. Unfortunately, according to officials, one person has died so far. Now, all of this started yesterday at 1:30, very early in the morning. And as soon as the firefighters responded, they started pulling people from the rubble. According to officials, they pulled 35 people from the building and 2 people from the rubble. At last check at Jackson Memorial Hospital, there were 2 individuals that were being treated for injuries. Now, this is a very painstaking, very dangerous work that these firefighters are doing out here. We're learning more about the actual building. We know that it was built in 1981. There's 12 stories, 136 units, 55 of them collapsed. We're also learning from the attorney that represents the condo association that in the past few months there had been engineering inspections at this location and that nothing had been found. We also know that there was work done to the building, and an FIU professor that had been studying this building says that there had been signs of sinking of this building back in the 1990s, about 2 millimeters a year from 1993 to 1999. Of course, a lot of experts will be looking at this building, at the structure of this building in the days and probably years to come. And we're having people look at what the videos show, what the rubble looks like, to get an idea, to start looking at a possible cause for this collapse. We talked to a structural engineer, and here's what he saw from the video of the collapse. Take a listen.
After having seen the video, I saw that you see the actual building coming down, and the actual collapse, it begins on one of the lower floors. So immediately I see that something happened down there, and what I've told everybody that that I've been in contact with is that all it takes is one column, and maybe it was a column on the ground floor, maybe it was a column in the garage, where that can fail, whether it's due to settling or due to a spalling or a confluence of those. All it takes is one column, and everything can come down like a Jenga.
And Christine, of course, right now the focus is search and rescue, but at some point, the Miami-Dade Police Department will take over this scene to try to figure out exactly what went horribly wrong.
All right, Rosa, thank you so much for that. As search and rescue teams race against time to find survivors in the rubble of that condo building, one fire official is cautiously holding out hope.
So in this type of collapse, even though it is a pancake collapse, as the slabs of concrete slide and move towards the ground, they do create voids. As the rubble crushes and slabs of concrete land on top of it, there are definitely voids. So we are hopeful that we will find patients in those spaces.
Let's bring in Samantha Gross. She's a reporter for the Miami Herald. And Samantha, you spoke with residents yesterday who were able to escape the building after this happened. What are they telling you?
From the residents I spoke with yesterday, it was a harrowing experience. These were people who kind of woke up to loud banging noises and opened their doors to see rubble and dust. One of my colleagues spoke to a person who had opened up his door, and where his neighbor's condo should have been was just dark beach. It's really hard to listen to. It sounds like a really harrowing experience none of us could really imagine. But eventually they were able to get help. A lot of them were taken by like a cherry picker from the Miami-Dade Fire Rescue from their balconies. And there were a lot of survivors who seemed to be in really good condition that were rescued from their apartments. But I can't imagine what that must have been like. And there are still so many people waiting to hear from the missing.
Yeah, to open your front door and see empty sky and dark beach where your friends used to live, where families had gone to sleep, just awful. There was construction on the roof of that building as part of a 40-year recertification process. Can you tell us more about what stage they were in the process and what was happening there in terms of the building and that recertification?
Right, so the 40-year recertification had just begun. We don't have a lot of details as to what exactly had been done in that process. It's a long process that can take, a year. But all buildings, down here have to be certified after 40 years and then every 10 years since. The replacement of the roof was something separate that had been going on for 30 days, what the Surfside mayor had told us. And I think, right now there's a big question mark over what effects that construction could have had on what happened. We don't know anything yet. There's still a lot of answers that people are looking for, but there was construction on the roof for the last 30 days or so.
And Samantha, this a 40-year-old building, 12 stories, all those balconies. The part of the building that collapsed is the part facing the ocean, right?
Correct. Yeah, it was the south tower of the building.
And for people who lived in this building, I mean, is this a vacation? Are these people who live full time? Is it a mix of people?
It's a mix. It's actually a pretty diverse mix. And from talking to people yesterday, I mean, these were families with young kids. These were retired people. These were people who, came to vacation. It was a mix. And, we had heard from the property manager and the, people who were living there that there were people who were very active in their community. They showed up to HOA meetings. This was a close-knit community, and I think that's where you're seeing, there's just a lot of emotion here because this was a close-knit place.
Miami Herald reporter Samantha Gross, thank you so much. And listen, all of our best to all of those people who are working so hard to try to find survivors. Thank you. Overnight, President Biden declared a federal emergency to help coordinate the disaster relief efforts in Florida. We want to bring in our old friend Zach Wolf, senior writer for CNN Politics, the author of the CNN What Matters newsletter. It's a really smart email every day, connecting the dots on all of these stories that matter the most. And Zach, you know, for better or worse, the disaster response tends to be a hallmark of presidencies, how presidents respond. What do you expect from Joe Biden in the next few days?
I mean, Biden in particular, among recent presidents, is sort of uniquely equipped to jump into that role of sort of consoler in chief. He's endured his own tragedies with his own family, you know, in his life. And so I think that he is sort of unique in that he can listen to people in a very compelling way. This is, on the other hand, it seems like a very localized story. It doesn't have the political baggage that some of the other tragedies you know unfortunately read about, like mass shootings, and so it will be interesting to see how the dynamic between him and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, a potential rival in the future, plays out. I don't believe they've spoken, but Biden has provided, you know, disaster relief for Florida, so that will be something to keep an eye on.
Well, let's talk about the president's agenda for a second here. You know, the president ran on the idea that Washington could work. And yesterday, you know, negotiators said they had reached a framework on policing reform. Biden announced this bipartisan deal on infrastructure. Of course, not everyone got what they wanted, everything they wanted. But look, is this Washington working? Are these two success stories for Biden this morning?
Let me just slightly correct you there. Biden ran on the seemingly crazy idea that Washington could work, because it's been so long. I mean, if you go back, during the Obama administration, I don't believe that we had many images of Republicans and Democrats coming together. Certainly not during the Trump administration, although there was policing reform. So to have these kind of twin frameworks emerge in days is a validation of everything Biden has been saying to the disbelieving press, people like me, who have been wondering if he could bring together Republicans and Democrats. Now, I will say a framework of a deal is not exactly signing legislation. So there's a long way to go, particularly on police reform. And then if you drill down into this infrastructure bill, it is compromised. It is incredible that he has been able to get Republicans and Democrats together, but at the same time, I mean, it's complicated. We must pass a reconciliation piece that Republicans don't like in order to get the smaller infrastructure piece that they do like. That seems extremely rickety to me from just the logistics perspective of how this actually becomes law. So it's nice to see the bipartisanship and these people coming together. I remain skeptical that they can actually turn it into law, but we will watch in excitement to see what happens.
Yeah, well-deserved skepticism, Zach, but at least they're not in quicksand anymore. I mean, that's my takeaway. At least Washington isn't just stuck in quicksand. All right, Zach.
Yeah, that's great.
Nice to see you. Thank you so much. We'll be right back.
The Dangote Group stands at the forefront of African enterprise. Since 1978, we've touched the lives of millions of people by meeting their basic needs. Our belief in the promise of Africa has taken us into 14 African countries, with substantial investments that will propel the continent towards greater prosperity, promising jobs, improved standards of living, and economic growth. Dangote, for an empowered Africa.
It's more than just a game. It's a way of life. Every pass, every shot, every goal brings us together. We travel thousands of miles so we can say we were there. We follow every moment and go where the game takes us, uniting in hope and watching together. It's more than just a game.
technology that we've had at our fingertips for many years can make a very significant shift in how we engage with the workplace. And I think that is going to be the lasting legacy of this pandemic, that worker flexibility and the choices that they have and employers' comfort level at making those choices available to them is going to be the new normal. I do believe that most employers and employees in the end want to have a level of interaction with their colleagues so that they can drive the business forward. It's just going to look a little bit different. But we don't